The Great Pyramid of Giza, March 2025, where researchers did not receive formal permission from Egypt to investigate or publish their claims about underground structures beneath Giza. Would you like to go further? Researchers claim that they have discovered a vast city beneath Egypt's Pyramid of Giza, where the so-called experts just dismiss it as fake news. Now, how factual is this information? Is this something that the so-called experts can just dismiss and just brush it off? We see that Corrado Malenga and Filippo Biondi led this project. Biondi has a PhD in telecommunication engineering, a true expert in SAR and radar signal processing, and has extensive experience in the field, where, in my opinion, it seems that Biondi is actually much more of an expert than these individuals that are just brushing their research off as myth. We are told that they found giant wells beneath the Khafre pyramid, which is the one right in the middle. And we all know they all have this going on underneath the sand. It's not just this one pyramid. But let's focus on this one for now. Finding wells using synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, Doppler tomography. This is a cutting-edge technique that analyzes subtle surface vibrations caused by background seismic waves. Now, one of the main things that I wanted to figure out today is, do these people that call themselves experts and simply dismiss these independent researchers' findings, do these individuals have any legs to stand on? Or are they simply dismissing it because the mainstream calls them experts? Because, like we have seen over and over and over, it doesn't follow the mainstream story. This fully challenges everything that we've ever been told, which is exactly why this sort of research was never conducted. I believe that they've completely screwed up and totally forgot that people could access this SAR technology without even being there, where this project used 2 radars that photographed the pyramids, compiled the data into images, and it exposed the 8 wells. Hollowed structures that consists of spiral pathways leading down underground. This was not supposed to be exposed at all, because we all know that this site is off limits to the public, definitely off limits to independent researchers. They're not going to allow a follow-up research team to go in there and investigate further, and we all know why. It would expose what's underneath the pyramids. In my opinion, they know exactly what is underneath them. They know their true purpose. And let's be honest, these pyramids, they were not built to be tombs. Not at all. Egypt tightly controls archaeological activities around the pyramids, overseen by the Supreme Council of Antiquities and the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. They are cautious about approving projects that challenge established narratives. These groups are cautious about approving projects that challenge established narratives. And there it is. This project is definitely going to challenge their established narrative, 100%. So we know that one group is hiding and blocking sites off from us. And we know that the independent researchers, they actually used a real technology that works. It's repeatable and it's documented. And they performed a real scientific study. Something that's been off limits to this location, and still is, if you were on the ground there. This group found a loophole and exposed exactly what's underneath the pyramids, and this is clear now. So what happened next after they exposed this? Zahi Hawass, an Egyptian archaeologist and former Minister of Antiquities, the exact same group that we just talked about, that tightly controls the narrative. This guy, he strongly criticized the claims by Malanga and Biondi, saying they were completely ridiculous and lacking scientific credibility. When we all know, and just went over it, that Biondi has a PhD in telecommunications engineering, a true expert in SAR and radar signal processing, with extensive experience in the field. While Zahi Hawass, the critic and the so-called expert, does not appear to have direct specialized experience in SAR. or radar technology. He lacks formal training or hands-on experience in SAR and radar. Hawass argues because they never went to the site and excavated anything in their lives. This makes their study a fantasy, a site that is completely blocked off and can't be excavated because of the groups that we've talked about, the ones that Hawass was connected with. This isn't working anymore. I believe these independent researchers totally found a loophole and exposed what's going on underneath the Great Pyramids of Giza. And Hawass is freaking out. The Egyptian experts are trying to disprove their radar findings by saying they don't perform any hands-on excavations. So, because you didn't get your hands dirty, that dismisses their findings. It's laughable at this point. It's getting embarrassing. We don't need to go dig with a shovel to understand the truth. And we all know this. We have seen this in episode 102, where they found massive old world cities in the jungle by using ground-penetrating radar. Do you really think they've had this technology to see underground and they never thought to check out the Great Pyramids? The thought process of using a shovel and a brush to figure out what is underneath the Great Pyramids, as well as the rest of Egypt. This thought process is done. You can't dismiss their evidence, their findings, by brushing it off and saying that they never got their hands dirty in the sand. And now that we know that their findings are legitimate, we are going to go further and see that the SAR technology located the cylindrical wells beneath the Khafre pyramid and detected that they extend approximately 2,125 feet under the ground. 2,125 feet underground, finding 8 giant wells. And this is all a fantasy, we are told. Identified through their analysis of the data, all a part of a vast underground network beneath the Giza plateau. We already know that Egypt submerged ancient sites. They destroyed so much of Egypt's true history. We just saw this in episode 121, where they built a dam in 1970 and submerged 500 square kilometers of land, where much of the ancient ruins were flooded. So now they're telling us that radar scanning is a fantasy. No, the fact that they are not interested in verifying the information and just calling it a fantasy, this proves that they do not want to expose the truth. They already know what's under the pyramids. Someone that doesn't know would be shocked, just like all of us are. We want to know more. Someone that is actually being truthful would not immediately dismiss the findings as fantasy. They would, without a doubt, be doing the exact same thing that we are doing. And if we had access to the site, like they actually do, we would be calling these researchers up today and saying, get over here. We want to know more. We want to know what you found. We want to document it all and do it even better. You can have full access to the site. We want to see what's really down there and how incredible the Great Pyramids really are. We want to show the world how incredible this entire site is. This is what you would do if you were being truthful. You would never do what they're doing and say, nope, that's fantasy and that's fiction. So stop talking about it. They never got their hands dirty, so it doesn't count. And then go home and go to sleep. There should be a bunch of teams being formed right now of independent researchers from all over the world to perform an even more extensive project to verify this information. But what will happen? And we'll see, but what I believe will happen is this thing will be brushed off. Nobody will ever be allowed to do any follow-up investigation. No independent researchers will ever be allowed into the site. Nobody will ever be allowed to do a follow-up investigation. And it will forever be labeled to the mainstream as a conspiracy and a fantasy when we have clearly laid out that the individual calling it a conspiracy, a fantasy in his own words, has zero training in this field. And the individual who actually conducted the research is a true professional, a true expert in radar. And it's unbelievable, especially when their findings go further. Not only did they find 8 cylindrical wells going 2,125 feet under the pyramid, below these, they located two cubic structures. According to their analysis of the SAR data, these structures are massive, cube-shaped chambers integrated into the vast underground network. Beneath the Giza Plateau, they are connected to the 8 cylindrical wells. These are the key components to the underground city. And this is shocking, because you have to ask, what else is under all of that sand in Egypt? We have always known that there's so much more. We've said this for years now, but I believe that we now have incredible confirmation of this. Biondi and Malanga used Cosmos SkyMed data, tracking tiny surface vibrations from seismic waves, then Biondi's phononic software to map what's below. They say that they can see way deeper than standard SAR, which usually taps out at 10 meters. And they exposed this in their 2022 paper with Biondi's volcano work, where they were able to see 3,000 meters under Vesuvius. So 648 meters was nothing, and called it a warm-up. They've done this already, and they've proved it. I want to drive this point home today. I want everybody to understand that we all have to ask questions. This is how you find the truth. Who is actively searching for the truth? And who is dismissing it? Brushing it off? Who is blocking people off from the sites? Who is actually trying to see what's under the pyramids? Answer these questions, and you're going to see who's on your side and who is possibly not. The public, all of us. We don't know anything 100%, but we can definitely come to an educated conclusion based on the information provided, and that's exactly what we're doing. It's what we've been doing for years now, and this is why I want to verify who these individuals are and what their credentials are so badly. After today, I'd like to have the least amount of doubt in my mind possible about this researcher, Filippo Biondi, where we see that he has a bachelor's degree in information engineering, followed by a master's in telecommunications engineering, and continued on to get his PhD in telecommunications engineering, getting another master's degree in space engineering and international space law. And what does somebody learn in space engineering and international space law? Well, you would learn the legal side of the Cosmos SkyMed, the exact same thing that he used to find this information. He learned the rules to the game. Biondi would know that Egypt can't stop him from using it under the Great Pyramid in Giza. This is incredible. He not only knew how to use the SAR radar, he was taught, he was trained, and he's had a lot of experience in it. But he also knew where he could use it. A treaty from 1967 called the Outer Space Treaty, which was signed by over 100 countries, which of course included Egypt. A massive mistake made in 1967, allowing for Biondi to expose what is going on under the ground in Egypt, where it states that nobody owns it and it's free for all. Legally, Egypt can't stop Italy's Cosmos SkyMed satellite from orbiting over Giza and snapping the SAR pictures. And Biondi, of course, 100% knew this. And this is why Hawass had to address it. Because guess what? Under law, the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, someone can do it again. And this information may trigger somebody out there watching right now to go explore further, because now you know you can. And this doesn't just unlock Egypt, it unlocks the entire world. All of those countries that signed that treaty, all of the old world sites are now on the table for us to explore. Zahi Hawass critiqued Biondi's work, saying that SAR can't go 648 meters deep. Yet this man has zero formal training in engineering, zero training in geophysics, and zero training in signal processing. Hawass has zero documented experience with synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. This guy is an inspector. He's a supervisor, and he's great with a shovel. I'm sure he could dig a heck of a hole. And who knows, maybe he is a great guy and knows a lot about sports. But when it comes to the credentials necessary in understanding what all goes into radar, understanding Biondi's work, he doesn't come close. And this is now exposed, where Biondi is an expert in radar and SAR. He's an expert in advanced technical qualifications, and his work is tech-driven. Hawass relies on his paintbrush and a magnifying glass, and a great outfit to look the part. I feel like this topic needed to be covered today. We've heard about it a few weeks ago, and it needed more context. I needed to know who these individuals were, what their backstories were, and who was more qualified to tell us about radar. And ultimately, who was winning the debate. Now knowing that we are allowed to conduct another experiment on the Giza pyramids, this has to happen. We need more true experts to do this. We need more individuals that want to be independent researchers, because the system researchers, they're blocking us off and not telling us the truth. And we need to do this in other countries. We need to see what is underneath all of these cities, all of the cathedrals, and under the water. We all know that there's tunnels, and we all know that the tunnels connect to all of the old world buildings. Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga have opened up something massive in Giza, with no thanks from Egypt, no permission, and they tried to block them off. And thankfully, they didn't even need Egypt's permission, thanks to that treaty. Using SAR Doppler tomography via Italy's Cosmos SkyMed satellite, all legal under the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. Egypt can't do anything about it. Biondi, a PhD radar genius, fully understanding the radar laws, they found 8 wells 2,125 feet deep, right under the pyramid. Spiral pathways and 2 massive cubic chambers in a 2-kilometer underground network. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities locks it down and doesn't allow on-site excavations under the pyramids. And then Hawass just tries to discredit the project by saying they didn't do an on-site investigation and calling their work ridiculous, when in reality, it's the other way around. Hawass, I honestly believe that you're exposing that Egypt is freaking out. The way that you acted about this was the complete opposite of a truth teller. The pyramids aren't tombs, and they are something so much bigger. That treaty means that anybody can scan again. And I say that we do. Let's do it at Cahokia in southern Illinois, where in episode 113, we found the Nephilim and a temple 2 feet under the dirt. Giza, cathedrals all over the world, old world sites, all hiding tunnels and secrets. 2,125 feet down, massive cubes, and a cover-up Hawass in Egypt can't keep buried. And it's shocking that they even want to. As always, I am open to hearing more on this. I'm open to anything. I want to know the truth. If the truth is that there are massive cylindrical structures that connect to massive underground cities right underneath the pyramids of Giza, then I want to know about it. Could the old world be living under the pyramids, in these massive cube structures? The old world Nephilim, are they under our feet and being protected, hidden from us? What is going on underneath the pyramids? What is going on below our feet? In every single country. And what are the pyramids really? In my opinion, they are technology from the old world. And I'll tell you what, I would bet that they are still operational today. 20 miles south of Cairo, Egypt, we have found sealed rooms. Over 5.5 kilometers of tunnels, the largest necropolis in Egypt. It's time to investigate the area surrounding the Saqqara necropolis, where we are all told that this location contains the oldest completed stone building complex known in history, according to the mainstream narrative. The Pyramid of Djoser, a necropolis. A necropolis is a cemetery, especially a large one, all belonging to an ancient city, the old world, the previous, incredibly advanced civilization that was here before all of us. So it's time to turn this up a notch. The Step Pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara is renowned for its extensive subterranean network, an underground complex underneath this pyramid, where we fully understand here that what we all see is just the top of a massive network under our feet. What we can all see is most likely not even close to the overall structure. if you just removed the sand from Egypt. I personally believe that there would be some people that wouldn't be able to handle the truth. And I'm sorry to say it, but I believe that it's time to rip the Band-Aid off and let the whole world see what's going on. But that's just me. And this is where they tell us that under this structure, there are corridors, chambers, and shafts. We know that there's so much more than what we're being told, where they tell us that they had an extensive restoration project here. And now all of the public can go in and see those new certain sections, but nothing else. A 14-year restoration. In my opinion, this is a destruction project. It's to remove all of the old world things that would blow our minds, and then allow us in there to see what this new thing is that they built. And then say it's the old world, when we all know that it's not. A destruction project that began in 2006 and finished up in 2020. And who do you think was in charge of this? I think we've all found a very interesting character over in Egypt, with restoration being carried out by Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. This is the exact same group that we just talked about with the Great Pyramids, where this group tightly controls archaeological activities around the pyramids, and the oversight by, of course, Mr. Zahi Hawass. The first time we mentioned you discredited independent researchers that have used actual data and technology, which you have never done. And we exposed this, but now you are involved again. So we now have to figure out who you are and what your background is fully. And then we'll continue. Hawass, a graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, has frequently restricted access to archaeological sites. This is all supposedly to protect Egypt's heritage from unqualified researchers and to preserve the integrity of official narratives about ancient Egyptian history, preserving and protecting. We have seen this so many times. They're not preserving or protecting these sites. They are preserving and protecting the mainstream narrative, the mainstream history. This is what they're protecting. Because if they don't do this, it will fully expose that what we have all been told is a total lie. So he's in the business of preserving the official narratives. He blocked independent explorations of the Giza Plateau and denied permits for projects proposing alternative theories. How can he do this? How is this guy allowed to just block people off from researching? Well, his authority to do this comes from his positions within Egypt's government, serving as head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities from 2002 to 2011, and as Minister of Antiquities in 2011, and again from 2021 to 2022, with Egypt's president elevating this guy to Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities in 2002. Now, let's get specific. In 1996, Hawass was the Director General of the Giza Plateau. This role gave this guy direct authority over the Giza necropolis, including the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, allowing him to oversee every single archaeological activity, issuing permits and enforcing regulations. In 1996, Hawass revoked permits for a team led by American researcher John Anthony West and geologist Robert Schoch, who were investigating the Sphinx. He halted their work, citing that he needed to protect the site from pseudoscientists. And he did it again in 2000, where he blocked Robert's team from using ground-penetrating radar to explore potential chambers beneath the Sphinx. Do you remember last episode how he said that you guys didn't visit the site and didn't dig with a shovel? You didn't use ground-penetrating radar on the site, so this discredits your work. He literally did the exact same thing in 2000, where he blocked them off from doing ground-penetrating radar. So his excuse that they didn't go there and conduct their research at the site is now null and void. He blocked them off from using ground-penetrating radar to explore potential chambers beneath the Sphinx. Hawass said that only Egyptian-led missions could conduct such studies. That's great. He loves the Egyptian culture. He loves it so much that Hawass left Egypt and came over to the USA to get his PhD. Makes total sense. No. So we see that a lot of things in Egypt, as well as all over the world, are systematically blocked off from the public. We know that the truth is withheld. It's off limits, all to protect this weird, fake mainstream story, where we can now go back to the Saqqara necropolis and see that they have found thousands of human remains with no exact total of bodies under the Saqqara. This is the previous civilization where they indicate that the number of bodies could be significantly higher as more of the necropolis is explored. And we know they aren't in the business of exploring. And we know that. We already know that there's so many more. We know that there are thousands and possibly millions of people buried underneath that sand. These people are not in the business of exploring. They are in the business of hiding, preserving, protecting, denying access to independent researchers. They have done this over and over and over. There is no denying it now. We all know that they've found more than what we're being told, yet we are told that there are sealed chambers. These have been identified under the step pyramid at Djoser. There is a subterranean complex containing human remains and over 40,000 stone vessels. And this gets incredible. They have found coffins that are significantly larger than human size, and they associate them to animals, where I am at the point where I personally don't believe that they built these coffins for an animal, and that was just an excuse all along. I don't believe they would go out of their way to construct this massive tomb for a bull. I believe this was built for the Nephilim, a giant race that we have shown over and over, and they are buried all over the world, including being buried in southern Illinois. 6 fingers and 6 toes were found. So let me ask, do you really think they weren't in Egypt as well? We all know that we're going to go much further and expose things that have been hiding for far too long, where we have the step pyramid, but just 1 mile away, we have the Serapeum of Saqqara, which we are told houses the oversized granite sarcophagi for bulls. This is the location that was just found in 1851. Our timeline yet again, over and over, where it contains 24 massive granite sarcophagi, 24 of them. These coffins are 13 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and 8 feet high, weighing between 50 and 60 metric tons, or 110 to 132,000 pounds, and an additional 22 to 33,000 pounds for the lid. And all of this is done, we are told, for a bull. No, there's no way. Get 10% off all W products right now by using code MLB. I'll put the link in the description below. This is clean energy, no sugar, no artificial flavors, no jitters, and no crash. There's over 15 awesome flavors to choose from, and every purchase helps this channel. That's code MLB for 10% off right now. Donkeys Incorporated was over in Egypt picking up 154,000 pound granite sarcophagi, all for a dead bull. This is ridiculous. The mainstream history is in shreds. It's nonsense. The previous civilization was much more advanced than we are told. They had incredible tools, they had incredible technology, and incredible knowledge. They can no longer just chalk it up to the ancient Egyptians. It doesn't work like that anymore. Do you want to see how you're lied to? Do you want me to expose just how corrupt the mainstream history really is? I'm going to show that what we are told is total nonsense, and there were never any bulls in these massive granite coffins. Here we go. They found these coffins in 1851 and told all of us that they found bull remains there. They say they found the bulls in 23 of the 24 sarcophagi, and this is the story. But when you go further and you think logically, you ask questions. You ask, is there a bull in there today? Is there any proof of a bull ever being in there besides these ridiculous stories that they've made up? And they tell us in the textbooks, and we read it and we believe it until now, where as of today, The 24 sarcophagi in the Serapeum of Saqqara contain no significant contents. All original contents have been removed. Now, they supposedly removed the bull remains. This is what we're being told now after you ask these questions. And associated artifacts, so any other artifacts that they found with these bulls, the old world items, their texts, tablets, their technology, they removed those also, all for study. For preservation, we are told. Preservation to preserve their mainstream story. All in 1851. Amazing. Today, the empty sarcophagus are all managed by this trustworthy group, the Supreme Council of Antiquities. This is unbelievable. Empty coffins. No proof that a bull was ever in there where I believe that the giants were found in 1851. I believe these were the old world Nephilim, and I believe that they were in these massive 154,000 pound granite sarcophagi in 1851. And they were found and they were removed. I believe they found their valuable items that they were buried with. And I believe that they were the looters. They were the grave robbers that the mainstream story loves to tell us about. They admit that they take the items and they just give us an excuse that it's all for preservation. It's ridiculous and it doesn't work anymore. I believe that these are admissions that they took their work, and calling it a preservation is just a way to get out of it. So who led the effort to remove the bones of these supposed bulls? Auguste Mariette, a French archaeologist. And before we go on, I can't get over the fact that nobody has ever seen a bull in these sarcophagi, yet everybody just went along with it for so long. I believe that this guy found incredible things, and he removed them, and then told everybody that it was some bulls. He found what we all want to see today, where between 1851 and 1854, this guy oversaw the removal of all contents from these sarcophagi. And then he founded the Egyptian Antiquities Service in 1858. He went on to direct the transfer of the remains and associated artifacts. This is the guy that made up the story about the bulls. And we all trusted this story for so many years. If I found a box in the desert and I took everything out of it, and then I told everybody that there was $1 million in the box, every single one of you would want to see the $1 million that I supposedly found in this box. Nobody is just going to believe me that I found $1 million. And I'm not going to show any money to you. You're just going to believe me. That is not going to happen. Or I just show you $20 and say many of the remains or a lot of the money that I found was fragmented and degraded. A lot of it was just gone, but trust me, all the money, the $1 million was in that box, I promise. You wouldn't believe me, but this is what happened. This is the story that everybody has believed for so long. These 24 coffins are all empty right now. They have been empty since 1854, all funded and directed by the French government. Incredible. Now remember, this is all in my opinion. You are, as always, free to think whatever you'd like. Now that being said, let's keep going. Auguste Mariette, he gets in there in 1851 and he finds these 24 sarcophagi for the very first time in our timeline. And this is the crazy part about it all, proving, in my opinion, that somebody went in there before him, prior to him supposedly finding this, someone from our timeline, and they knew what he would find. And they sent him in there to be the one who supposedly finds it all, where we are told that he didn't need to open all of them. Because as he documented in 1857, several lids were already open. Someone had already gone in there prior to 1851 and removed things. Who did this? There's obviously a group, in my opinion, that went in there before Augusta and sent him in there after. This guy was a pawn. Auguste Mariette. He had no formal archaeological or Egyptological training, and we believe his bull story to this day. This guy had no training, no experience, and he went in there and saw that these things were already open. Why are we believing his story? It's incredible when you pull the curtain back and really look at who is telling us what. When you begin to see who these people really were and who is putting these characters in place, funding them, seeing that somebody was in there before him, it changes everything. The whole story of the bulls in Egypt being buried in these massive structures, it doesn't sound so logical anymore, does it? Not only do these sarcophagi weigh 154,000 pounds, but they are also placed in an underground complex. The Great Gallery is a long, straight corridor carved directly into the limestone bedrock, lying entirely beneath the surface, all a part of a broader network of tunnels and chambers. They are telling us that these were all quarried from Aswan, which is like 800 kilometers away, or 497 miles, and all brought to Saqqara. We all know that that's not possible with horses and wagons. We are exposing the truth right now, that the previous civilization had to have had more technology than what we're being told. They had to have been able to transport this 500 miles. No problem at all. There's no other way around it. There's no excuse in the book. You can say they hooked it up to Santa's sleigh all you want. Rudolph was in charge of pulling it down the river, and Blitzen was over there chiseling it by moonlight. Nobody's buying it anymore. It's over. Can you even imagine where these underground networks lead to? And we all know that they know exactly where they lead to. We know that they've done the research, and they don't want to tell us. And this is why it's off limits to the public. All for preservation. And what is going on under all of that sand? They are telling us that they just found all this in 1850, less than 200 years ago. And ever since, it's basically been off limits to the independent researchers and modern technology. It's all preserved and protected, as they like to say. Off limits, all to hide what is really going on in there. It's an incredible location for our research, obviously. Even going back to episode 121 and episode 124, creating dams that flooded massive old world structures, destroying them in Egypt and submerging them 100+ feet underwater, and restricting divers to investigate further. Perfect 90-degree angles in Egypt. That Abe Lincoln's mom, she just wished that she had that for little Abe in the 1800s. The doors squint, and I thought we'd been told that we're evolving and advancing. Where is Abe's basement? Why are there underground tunnel networks in Egypt that have perfect granite tombs that weigh 154,000 pounds? Yet Abe can't get a glass window. What the heck happened? A massive worldwide reset, where the 17 and 1800s were the beginning for us. And it couldn't be any clearer at this point. The finders began finding the old world sites and structures all over the world and finding their technology. And we are uncovering the truth today using logic and common sense. We've got sealed chambers, oversized coffins, tunnels nobody is allowed to explore, and the government-run preservation team that conveniently removes everything of value and tells us, don't worry about it, it was just bulls. And there's nothing in there now. Not even the bull bones that they tell us about. And somehow, people still defend this story like it's this sacred truth. And it's not. These same people telling you that the coffins were for bulls are the same exact people who blocked radar scans under the Sphinx. They're the same ones who restore everything for 14 years, only to open up one tiny section to the public. It's the same guy, Hawass, who goes out of his way to protect the story, not the site. Why does he do this? Because the second that lid comes all the way off, and we see what's really down there, the whole timeline collapses. Every single classroom textbook, every museum tour, every PhD built on the same foundation of primitive man with a chisel. This would be gone. You don't hide bulls. You don't lock away pottery. You do hide giants. You do hide power. You hide technology and texts. You hide the old world. And don't forget, this isn't just Egypt. This is all over the world. We've seen the same thing in southern Illinois. The same thing. Underground tombs, massive skeletons, 6 fingers, 6 toes, buried and gone. Covered up, just like Malta, just like Turkey, and just like Peru. I don't believe that Mariette found the Serapeum. I believe that he was sent there because somebody already knew what was under the sand. Lids were already cracked open. Contents were already removed. They needed a name to stamp on the discovery. A fall guy. A story. Meanwhile, at the same time, we got 154,000-pound coffins, all emptied out. The contents inside, they're all gone. They're removed, all for preservation. And we've all just gone on with our lives like that's normal. And it's not normal. I believe this was the biggest heist in human history. They didn't rob a tomb. I believe at this point, they robbed our timeline. The old world existed, the giants were real. The tombs weren't made for bulls, they were made for kings, Nephilim kings. And they didn't just live here. I believe that they were in charge of these sites.